Hi there. Okay, so the final stage before we move to firing, I showed you how I made this pot. So this is it just off the wheel, still glistening. And you can see that the base is just the way it was when I cut it off the base. It's not finished. But here are the 5 pots that I did the other day. And my little family, and they are they're basically done. So they've got handles. I dry them upside down. I dry them very slowly. Once I have trimmed them and they're finished, the handles are on, I cover them and I try to keep them covered, and I don't try not to touch them. That's sometimes challenging, for 2 days. And the reason I do that is that the handles and the pot are usually at a slightly different level of moisture. And you want that to be equalized, because if it's not equalized, small cracks can develop everywhere that there's a connection. And so I keep it covered. It creates an equilibrium in terms of the moisture that helps to keep these pieces from cracking. The pot kind of gets to know its elements. And then I do a final thing, which is that if there is any kind of issue, I'll come in with this crazy little tool. For a while, dentists were giving these out all the time. I have like 5 of them. I've never used them, but they're great for pottery. So for instance, for this tool, for this pot, it's all done. This one has a mark, my mark on the side rather than on the base, because the base was kind of thin. But I will take this tool, for instance, and right in here, I'm going to be running it around to just make sure that this seam is nice and clean and that there's no crack, and that if I want a crispness to it, it's a little dry for that right now, but if I want a crispness to it, I can get that. So I'll go through a final stage here, and then I will pack them up and take them to my shared studio in town, where I do some teaching and I do some work. I do a lot of grunt work. Actually, I clean out muck buckets and I run the glaze firing with some other people at times. And I just do a whole lot of different things, which I enjoy, and we've got a nice community. But I'll clean them up and then I'll transfer them in there and they'll go through a first firing. And I will show you that later, but I thought today I would just introduce you to these guys and show you how different they are. So this one wanted a couple little, I don't know what you'd even, well, they're balls, but wanted a couple little, I don't know, jewels up here. And what's going to be fun about this, I hope, is they will all take the glaze in a little differently. So even if I glaze it with a single glaze, not complicated with stripes or anything, the glaze is going to respond differently to each of these lines and curves, and that will give it really some distinction. So there's this little guy. The other thing I do is I dry them upside down, and the reason I dry them upside down is it retains the moisture in the center of the pot, and that slows down the drying process. It increases the likelihood that the pot is going to reach that equilibrium that I'm looking for in a good way. But it also means that the handle, which is often wetter than the body of the pot that I've just trimmed, it's going to be kind of, through the force of gravity, leaning down into the pot instead of wanting to fall away from the pot. So if this is the pot and this is the handle, if I set it upright, I'll put it up near the lip. If I set the pot upright and gravity is pushing it down, it's both going to maybe change that line a little bit in a way that I don't want, and it may even cause the handle to want to pull away from the pot. But if I invert that and I do it this way, then the handle is going to get a nice curve going down, and it's going to want to kind of lean into the pot. So that's a tiny little thing, but you know, those are kind of things that you learn over time, and that make the difference. Anyway, so there's this guy with his little bejeweled thing. This one I think of as whale tail. It's a different size also. This is a taller one, very classical. So this one just wanted to be, I don't know, very classic pot there. And this one also wanted a few little special things at the base. And the handles, this the last one I did, this clay in here was pretty wet, and I was able to just mush it in with my thumb because I also want it to be lovely in your hand. So this one I just mushed in, and you can see there's some of that sense of flow and the fluidity of the clay that I wanted to retain there. And this one honestly felt a little heavy in my hand, and so I took a knife and I just created these circles around it. That's what this one wanted, and it's just a circly kind of one. So that's a very different mug, but they all, of course, have this one similarity, which says that they belong together. All right, next step will be the bisque. I'm going to do some final work here. I'll add a handle to this other one that I just threw, and I'll see you later. Bye.